Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Escaping Atheism. This is Max, and I'm pleased to joining me today. Believe it or not, this is the first time I've actually spoken to him that I can recall. But this is Deflating Atheism, or the proprietor of the channel Deflating Atheism, which I've been a big fan of ever since I found it. Oh, you just pulled up. That's you, I think, not me.
Me?
One of us is causing the. One of this is causing an echo. Okay, well, whichever one of us did that, I closed that, or it's closed out. Let's start again. I've been a big fan of the Deflating Atheism channel for a while. I'm not sure what to call you except maybe deaf. Yeah, he's deaf. Deaf punk anti-atheist. So actually, I'm going to start. We just released an Escaping Atheism a video that actually at least 3 members of the Escaping Atheism team were part of. It's in a response to TJ Kirk, who attacked us a few weeks ago. Did you see TJ's video by any chance?
Yes, I don't know if I watched it in its entirety, but yes, I did see it.
Well, you've only got so much time to sit through listening to the same rote talking points over and over again.
There's absolutely no substance, yes.
Literally, the Escaping Atheism team, there's 5 of us, right? Plus 2 or 3 other friends we have that just we talk behind the scenes and stuff. And literally, when we get atheist videos sent to us, we'll make deals with each other. Will you please watch this one and tell me if there's anything important in it?
Well, I did the same thing with you. I sent you the Kyle Kalinske video.
Yes, you sent me a Kyle Kalinske video. You wrote me into it. I promised to respond to Kyle Kalinske soon because you asked.
Because it's all the same. If you respond to one of his videos, you responded to all of them. But I mean, so I've already done that. I've already put in my my Kyle Kalinske time, you know.
I love your videos. We have a mutual admiration society going because his videos are short and he feels insecure about how short his videos are. I feel insecure for how long the Escaping Atheism videos are. Because I know actually they'll tell you the ideal video length if you want to get people's attention is something like 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I actually can't do that because I'm much too much of an arrogant loudmouth and I just need to hear myself talk. Or whatever it is, right?
Your videos are unwieldy in length, yes.
But they're detailed. And I often get people ask me, what's my purpose? Like, are you founding some kind of somebody suggested it was an anti-defamation society for Christians. And it's like, well, okay, you're paying no attention to the content because we regularly defend pretty much every religion on the planet and people who believe in God who don't join any religion. Yes, and in fact, one of the big lies that the atheist community pumps out, and this is propaganda. Atheists have a lot of propaganda, and it's time they be confronted with the fact that they pump out propaganda out of their forums and out of various university departments. And one of them is, actually, there's quite a few of them actually. But one of that means is that you can spot the rote talking points very quickly with these people.
Yes.
And one of the things we were just talking about this, so I'm going to ask you your opinion of this. I have gotten to I started talking about the atheist thing about 1.5 years ago, trying to be really nice and really friendly. In fact, I'm going to release in the next couple days, we're going to release another video that Chris at Missing the Mark, who you talked with the other day,
yes,
on your channel, or was it on his channel? Well, anyway, he read another essay from me 1 year ago. It got nothing but pan, got nothing but attack, got nothing but savage, mostly by people who hadn't read it, but even the ones who did were just giving the usual rote talking points. And it was fairly friendly, even though it was a little confrontational. It really was like, can we just be more reasonable? Can we just find a way to get along? And they savaged it and mocked me and savaged me. And I don't just mean a few, but a ton of them. And it was a repeat of things I had undergone when I was an atheist. And I was a pretty committed atheist about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And was one for about 10 years because I'm an old guy. So me coming out of it was kind of a turbulent thing. And it mostly had to do with the way atheists behaved toward me. But what
you found out right as new atheism was ascendant, right?
Yeah, maybe it wasn't 10 years ago. It really depends, right? Because But Penn Jillette had more or less talked me into being an atheist in the 90s on bullshit and stuff like that. His show Bullshit and stuff like that, Penn and Teller. And then yeah, I liked some of the I liked Daniel Dennett's Bright thing for a little while, even though now I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I was getting out of it right around 2006, 2007. And so yeah, I guess I missed the crest of it, and I really believed it was going to crest and go away. And I know Dave over at the Distributist thinks it's going to crest and go away. I'm like, no, because the carnage they've wreaked is going to be with the culture for a while. I can't believe how nasty and hateful most young atheists are. And by young, I mean like under 30, under 35. Nasty and hateful. And I've got some people who are friends or former friends who are like, why are you being mean to me? I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I'm like, look at the wasteland that is all the atheists on YouTube, all the atheists, at least who self-identify that way as their big name, all the atheist forums, all the atheist clubs in schools, and tell me that you're not a movement.
Yes, yes.
And so, Harold, what I want to ask you, you were kind of, I no longer care if I hurt any atheist feelings. In fact, if I make an atheist cry, literally, I will consider my job done. I've gotten that hard ass about it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, I take, am I still echoing there, by the way?
Not here, no. You're good.
Okay. It sounds like I might still be echoing.
It was probably my screw up. I think it was me.
That's
I do
fine.
that a lot. In fact, when I used to do these, they called it pulling an Esme. I screwed up and did it. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's kind of a selection bias where we get the most extreme views with the people who are actually committed to going on the internet and battling Christians. We get the worst of the worst. And it works the other way too. I mean, when atheists are debating, they probably get the worst Christians a lot of the times. I intend to change that, but yeah, I mean,
the dumbest ones anyway. Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's the thing is that I mean, you have to put it out there. Yes, we are willing to debate atheists. And you really have to do it mainly for the benefit of the fence sitters, because once atheism has got its claws into people, it's very difficult to shake them out of it. So you're really doing it for the benefit of the fence sitters, but I mean you don't really want to alienate people at the same time. But even just contradict, not even debating them on the internet. It's gotten to the point where even if you merely contradict them, they're not expecting that. That's enough to trigger them, is merely to contradict them.
Yes.
Because they're expecting that they're already part of a little echo chamber, you know? And when somebody comes onto their little, EverQuest Uber guilds and says, yes, I'm a Christian, I believe, Jesus died for our sins, they're like, what the fuck is this shit, you know?
I used to have a lot of sympathy, and I know this is probably a battle. Hopefully we can keep it to a small battle, but I know there's going to be a battle brewing between evangelical Christians and other types of Christians on YouTube. And atheists will, of course, take advantage of that, but it's probably going to happen because I came out of the evangelical tradition, and I came out of Calvinism. And that's one of the reasons I turned atheist, to be honest. And because I was just so, I got a lot of negative things about that side of Christianity. Not that there aren't wonderful people in it, but I still get the same kind of condescension and historically inaccurate remarks from evangelicals. And at some point, I think that that's probably going to come up soon too. And what I'm hoping is that Catholics will try, and other Orthodox type Christians actually will try a little harder to see where the evangelicals are coming from. But evangelicals, I think, are going to need to stop assuming that you can just pat Catholics on the head and that we don't know what we're talking about. Actually, I'm sorry, we're the ones who gave you the university system, and Thomas Aquinas might want to learn something about why we think the way we do. We're not that stupid, and we're not brainwashed. And that's something atheists need to hear too. I think I'm rambling a little bit, but one of the things I've noticed is that most of the ammunition, the Christian haters in the atheist community, who are rampant, they use not just evangelicals, but but generally the least sophisticated of the evangelicals, and hold them up as typical Christians. And that's why I'm convinced Ray Comfort and Ken Ham only have careers because of atheists.
Well, that's something I've noticed from the very beginning, is that the absolute worst atheists are typically the ones who come from a Southern Protestant background.
Or a general hard-ass Calvinist background. Although there are some angry ex-Catholics too.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, but at least
the worst of them almost always came out of some kind of evangelical Bible thumper tradition.
Exactly.
And I think it's fair to call that side of Christianity out for that. I mean, just say, you know, one thing that I'll never get over is that the old Protestant doctrine of sola scriptura has morphed into a type of Christianity that thinks that any idiot with the Bible in his hand can have an opinion that's equally valid as any other idiot's.
Yeah.
The whole atheist movement has taken complete advantage of that. But what the atheists won't even acknowledge is that about 80 to 90% of Christianity disparages that way of approaching the Bible. It really does. That's you can ask the Eastern Orthodox, the Coptics, even like the really serious conservative Lutherans, and you know, Episcopalians and others will say, no, you don't just pick up a Bible and whip out and just, well, it says this, so let's fucking do that. Well, we must need to stone the faggots or whatever, and they're all reading it like idiots. But what gets me about the atheists is they'll take, you know, these fundamentalist primitive readings and then call you a liar when you try to correct them and tell them why the fundamentalists are wrong.
Yeah.
And to me, at that point, once atheists have done that to me, all bets are off. You've decided you get to say whatever you want about me, mine, and my faith, and that's just criticism.
Yeah.
But if I turn around and look at your movement that you claim is not a movement, and your ideology that you claim is not an ideology, and am critical on the same terms you are, they lose their minds.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wanted to ask you this. I know the one that got me being a big fan of yours, and then I still want everybody, especially who's religious, to see. And I don't just mean Christians. I mean Jews, Hindus, you name it. Everybody should see Deflating Atheism's video on who is that poor brainwashed 13-year-old girl.
Oh, it's not Emmy. Yeah.
That's what she goes by. It's not Emmy.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I was young and throughout most of history, a girl like her turning atheist, most mature parents would do what I actually did with my son turned atheist, which is when he was a teenager, it was just to say, oh, well, that's interesting. You read any books on that or anything? He had some atheist book he'd read, and there's hundreds of them now, so I can't remember the title, but have you noticed the movement that's not a movement and the ideology that's not an ideology, nevertheless now has hundreds of books on the bookshelves, movies?
Hey, at least he read a book about it. At least he read a book about it. He's not someone who saw some memes on Facebook 2 weeks ago and now is convinced that he's smarter than 98% of the world's population. You know.
Or yeah, he watched Religulous by Bill Maher, or he listens to Penn Sunday School, so now he's a damn expert. And what really chills me, I caught Noel Plum doing this. I've seen other atheists do this. They refer to taking someone, including a child, and making them an atheist. They don't even call it converting. They call it deconverting.
Yes.
Which is, to me, creepy cult manipulation of language, just like the same creepy cult manipulation of language that has them saying their atheism is just lack of belief. And they got a lot of other little cultish tricks like there too. Like, oh, come on, we're not even a movement.
Yeah.
It takes balls to do that. When you got a logo, slogans, forums, bookshelves, meetings, and by the way, cultural Marxists and almost the entire social justice left is virtually 100% atheist.
Yes.
With a few what I call Potemkin Christians and Potemkin Muslims. I mean, those social justice people, you know what they're doing now? I'm ranting, but I just saw Lawrence Krauss giving a supposedly brave speech as an atheist about what we have to do about the Muslim problem. And, you know, I see these people like, I don't know, name any of the anti-social justice atheists on YouTube, Sargon, any of them. And they would chide me and say, why don't you understand who your allies are? Aren't you, do you want to be your kids in burqas? I'm like, no, I don't want my kids to be Muslim either. But I know Lawrence Krauss, I've heard people who talk like him. When they're done with the Muslims, they'll be turning on the Christians.
Yes.
In fact, some atheists I've talked to have openly stated this, like Preston, what the fuck his name is, and quite a few others. First the Muslims, then we'll get rid of the Christians.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not aligning with any atheists who don't show, don't stop being such illiterate assholes and rude assholes. And one of the now I'm just ranting and not letting you talk, but I'm sick of being tired that they're not supposed to respect our feelings, or we're not supposed to have any. They're not supposed to have to have any respect for us, but we're supposed to give them respect. Fuck you, entire atheist community. When you talk that way, you learn some manners and you learn some respect, or get the fuck away from me and my kids. And that's kind of where I am. I'm sorry, ranting. What got you interested in this subject?
Just the it's something I never planned on. It's something I just kind of got sucked into. I think it's the way you have the headphones on. It's causing an echo. But yes, I mean, like prior to a few years ago, I wouldn't have even called myself a Christian. But I was always at least some form of generic believer. But so I got into this. I would just see comments on the internet. I was like, well, that's wrong. I'll address that, and that's wrong. I'll address that, and it just kept building. And over time, I started seeing this pathology of atheism, where it just became natural. Okay, this is what I do. I started a channel. I had already been kind of alert to the dynamics of kind of atheism versus Christianity on YouTube, and so I've kind of been following that for a few years. I don't know why it took me so long to finally create my channel, I guess. Because I had a few triggering experiences in 1 year, and it's finally like, okay, this is enough. I have to jump into this fray. But yes, I'd actually
watch out for the word trigger there. They're gonna have them.
That's exactly what they are. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're triggered by seeing a nativity scene in some small town it's some small town center. So that triggers you. That's exactly what we're expecting to protect their feelings is exactly what's happening.
I literally had an experience only a few months ago. A guy I knew on Facebook, I'll just say his first name, Chris. I won't mention the rest, but literally, he's a construction guy, a contractor. He sustained not one, but two injuries. And was literally in traction, and posted on Facebook that he was not in good shape. It wasn't even thinking people. He'd say, "Please, everybody, pray for me. My life is falling apart." Two atheists, no, at least one atheist, savaged him.
Yeah,
savaged him for asking for people for prayers. Atheists, you've got an asshole problem, and I'm not disambiguating for you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just not. You're converting children, and you're calling that just rational. No.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing this anymore, especially because you're making them stupid atheists.
Yes. And that's...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, with first off, it's Christmas time. Of course, we're going to see the same stupid shit about, oh, Jesus never existed. He was based on horse. We're going to see that shit trotted out again.
Oh, let's hear more about the Gnostics. Let's hear more about the Gnostics.
All the blasphemous stuff. It's like,
let's hear about Joseph Campbell. Okay, like he knew everything. Go ahead.
But this is the time of year. This is the time of year where they just show how vile they are, and then they complain, atheists are the least trusted minority. Look, people would trust rapists more than us. Well, geez, it's a small wonder about that,
What
maybe you haven't congratulated yourself enough. Maybe if you just call yourselves the rational intellectual high ground a few million more times, we'll believe you. Maybe you haven't congratulated yourself enough, and then we'll like you more. But yeah, I mean, this is the time of year they just truly show how vile they are.
And the thing is that what gets me is you'll have moderately high IQ atheists who like nothing more than zooming in on people who are obviously simple-minded in their faith, and and they'll even justify that by saying, well, shouldn't you be smarter, whatever. No, that's you picking on someone just because you want to pick on someone and making them be constantly on the defensive. Like literally, how encyclopedic does my knowledge of theology and Christianity and history have to be before I pass your atheist test that it's okay for me to be religious?
Yeah.
How much do I have to know? My mom doesn't need to be defending all that shit all the time. Neither does my kid.
Yeah.
But they feel entitled to do that. And then again, they lose their minds if you start questioning the atheist proposition and lie and say it's not a position and lie and say it's non-ideological. And the thing is that I've heard people try to say that this is, it's going to go away. It's just going to be a fad. No, because things they say about religion, things they say about Christianity and other religions, very common. It's now part of the culture. Like it's just been indoctrinated through the education system and the cultural Marxist influence there. I mean, have you noticed the irony that when like Sargon of Akkad or T.J. Kirk or even people like Kraut and T and all those, when they speak of religion, it's party line Marxism, whether they consider themselves Marxism or not. It's right out of Marx.
Yeah, yeah.
The irrational, superstition, holding us back, science, all the shit they say about science, all of it, it's straight up come out of the Marxist playbook. Whether they know it or not, they lose their minds and go, well, I'm not a communist, well, I'm not a Marxist. You shut the fuck up. You're still repeating Marxist party line. Where'd you get that shit? This is not obviously true.
This is what I said to Making the Mark is that the whole new atheist position is basically suspended in amber from the 19th century. It is basically from that kind of very Victorian era of scientism, and it's completely oblivious to any intellectual development that's happened in the past 100 years.
Well, absolutely.
They say, "Oh, we're blazing a new path." No, you're blazing the path of 1916, not 2016.
Well, frequently more like, 1916. Yeah, no kidding. Sometimes more like 1890.
Exactly.
It's ludicrous. It's really funny, too, because I've read some stuff.
Including the Jesus mythicism. That's another throwback. But hey, it suits their purposes, so they'll trot that out. Yeah.
The Jesus mythers, one thing that I will say about the Jesus mythers is they, again, the skeptical community is completely open to the Jesus mythers and to all kinds of amazing stories about the Gnostics and how the Gnostics were supposedly tortured and the Gnostics were supposedly suppressed by the evil Christians. Yeah, suppressed by the evil Christians when they were hiding in the tunnels and the catacombs and supposedly. No, Gnosticism failed because it isn't that fucking interesting and there's no substance to it. I've read a lot of Gnostic texts. There's nothing there. In fact, I dare you to start the Gnostic religion again. Go for it. You've got a lot of texts and you've got a lot of ideas, and we've had these for decades now. Why haven't you started Gnosticism again if it's so obviously better? And the answer is that actually, I think most atheists are actually Gnostics. I really do, and they just don't know it because there's nothing to Gnosticism. There really isn't.
Well, no, I mean, you see it a lot. Just the whole dynamic is that there's a force above us that is blinkering us, that is blinding us to the truth, and that takes many forms. And in atheism, it's kind of like, oh well, there are these religious leaders, and they're blinding you. But once you bravely cast off the shackles of religion, you'll see things as they truly are. And it's the same Gnostic myth. I mean, it's like the Matrix or whatever. You see it recur again and again. And it's basically, you get that myth where you have the few enlightened who see past what the
yes, the few enlightened, the atheists. Yes. Nobody ever has the guts to get skeptical of the Jesus mythers. They should. A lot of these people are frauds. Richard Carrier is especially awful.
Yeah.
Like, especially disingenuous among the Jesus mythers. The whole dialectic is one of the things you'll notice. The other too is, here's what I think. I've gotten some people who push back. I really believe, and I think history will vindicate me on this, the new atheist movement was created as a media event, a bunch of media darlings, by the mainstream media that had already been taken over by the social justice people, which is basically the cultural Marxists, because they got way too much attention, the whole new atheists. And still, you see atheist commenters all over the place now in the news. How often do they have, I won't even say a Catholic bishop, how often do they have anybody who's religious on to talk about the religious point of view?
Yeah.
And when they do, how often do they make sure to pick smart ones? I mean, why hasn't Ed Fazer, for example, been on Real Time with Bill Maher? And I'll tell you why he hasn't, because he would destroy Bill Maher. Bill Maher's one of the most disingenuous atheist assholes who's ever lived.
Well, they had Ross do that, or however you pronounce his last name.
Yeah, and Ross, who I'm a big fan of, is, in my opinion, he's just not confrontational enough.
Yeah, yeah.
He's right, though, and everybody's listening. He's talking about Ross Douthat's latest book. Oh, man, what's it called? It doesn't matter. Go look for a guy. He writes for the New York Times. His name's Ross Douthat. I can't say it right. Doutoat.
He was on Real Time and he mopped the floor with Bill Maher.
Well, of course he did, and he said the same thing, which is that atheists, and let's get it again. They can stop pretending they're not organized, and they can stop pretending they're not cultish, because they are. Yes, they're a loosely aligned network of cults, but they all cooperate. They all share data with each other. Everybody from Penn Jillette, Bill Maher, the people over at Atheist Experience, all these YouTubers, they all talk. I have it on good authority that several well-known atheists have interacted with me on sock accounts and with the other Escaping Atheism team. I know we're annoying them, and I'm glad we're annoying them. I've talked to many other theists who were driven off of YouTube and driven off of social media.
Yes.
By atheists.
Yes.
And for doing nothing but making some of the same points we are.
Yeah.
At some point, and this is why I keep saying online atheism, it is proto-SJWism. It is proto-feminism.
This is what I'm saying. You got to be careful, because you're poking at the amazing atheist hornet's nest. I mean, look at Brett Keane, or someone who was regularly subject to abuse from his little fanboys. You know, so you know, you can't just brazenly go poking that hornet's nest. You know.
Actually, you can. The problem is you've got to realize the main thing in dealing with atheists. Truly, I recommend the book SJWs Always Lie by Vox Day. I've recommended.
It's spelled out there in the title. I mean, well, you don't even need to read the book.
Well, that's a rhetorical point he makes, but if you read the book, you really could change the title to Atheists Always Lie, because the behavior of the online organized atheists, and I am not exempting Sam Harris fans, I am not exempting Penn Jillette fans, I am not exempting Bill Maher fans, and I am not going to accept, you know, atheists saying, well, the real atheists are not like that. No, Sargon of Akkad, you are every bit as much a real atheist as Steve Shives. And you are. And you think like them and you talk like them, and you're a rude asshole much of the time to the non-atheist majority of the population. And what these people need to realize at some point is they are a shrinking minority, even in the English-speaking world, even in England, even in the UK, even in Canada, even in Australia, atheists are a shrinking minority. And they've got they basically got two choices in their future. You're going to be a Christian nation, you're going to be an Islamic nation. And if you don't want to be an Islamic nation, you better learn something about Christianity that you didn't get from a con man like Penn Jillette.
Yes.
Who still lies about Christians every time he talks about us on his podcast, Penn Sunday School. I know, I've heard him very recently. He still does it. He's a bad man. I don't ignore. Christians should stop being nice to Penn Jillette and his fans.
Do you ever get the sense, though, you might hate that I say this, is that Penn Jillette, every now and then, he evinces a glimmer of reasonableness in his attitude towards Christians. Every now and then, it's kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Every now and then, he'll say something that perhaps he understands that there is no conflict between religion and science, but then he goes back to the mode where he has to throw bones to his fanboys, you know?
Because they think science, that we've gotten this notion embedded in the culture that it's science versus religion. And again, I'm pretty sure this is cultural Marxist influence, because the entire creationist wars thing, I mean, again, I am specifically mentioning my Catholic background, but this is very true in other branches of Christianity. Like when I grew up in the 70s with the Presbyterians told me creation science was dumb.
Yeah.
My dad, who was a King James only kind of fundamentalist guy, you know, he was the one who said, okay, because we heard about the creationist thing, and like, well, that's interesting, but come on, let's look at Genesis here. Now, do you really think that's literally a snake right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, it's like every Christian has to answer for the creationists.
And that is always the atheist escape hatch. You can corner them on every single argument, and then they'll pull the escape hatch, which is
or the Galileo escape hatch. The Galileo escape hatch. Galileo and creationists. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. But yeah, a lot of times I almost feel, okay, are the terms of the argument either the Earth is 6,000 years old or God doesn't exist? Is that our either or here? You know, and that's why I think atheists that's the position atheists are arguing from. Either you have to choose the Earth is 6,000 years old or God doesn't exist.
I've literally seen them do that. In fact, I said, I saw one guy, there's this new phrase that they're test marketing, and it is test marketing because we follow a lot of the professional atheists. One they're test marketing is moderate Christians. What they're calling the term moderate Christians, you know, just like moderate Muslims, and putting moderate Christian in quote. And then they're implying that the honest Christians are 6,000-year-old creationists and do believe in stoning faggots, but the moderate Christians are in denial about their religion and just don't want to admit the truth.
Yeah.
That's a line they're starting to push. Anybody who thinks that's not hateful anti-Christian propaganda is full of shit. And frankly, I feel at this point, atheists really are a bigger threat to me and my family than anti-Islamic terrorism is. I really mean that, and I'll back it up with facts. They won't like hearing it, but it's true. Atheists, you're rightly disliked. Grow up and hear about it. Maybe you'll change your ways. You don't have to stop being an atheist, but you could grow the fuck up. Sorry, go ahead.
There was a little news clipping I very briefly showed in one of my videos. I just threw it up there. I didn't talk about it. You might have seen it. But they actually did a study in France about young people who were recruited by ISIS. The vast majority of them come from secular atheistic backgrounds.
Not at all a surprise. They have been taught decades of anti-Christian propaganda, not just in school, not just in the colleges, but in much of Hollywood, where so little honest and real and positive portrayal of Christians is to be found. I know they're going to run out and find a few examples, but you see it in show after show after show and movie after movie after movie. Either religion is non-existent or far more often, you know, the religious, especially anybody in an organized religion, is usually a bad guy. I mean, there are exceptions, you know, like Daredevil has been doing a real good job with the Catholic thing lately, and I've seen some other good films involving or things involving evangelical Christians, but it's noticeable when you find them because it's so rare.
I'm not quite as fatalistic about entertainment culture as some other Christians. I mean, what I see coming out of Hollywood is people with ideas making movies that reflect their ideas. If I were to take if you were to take the people I know on the internet, I'd say, okay, you can make movies. Trust me, it would be a whole lot more atheistic than what we see. You know,
I guess, except I do know that the entire culture, in terms of its values, see, this is hard for me to talk about because I have honestly believed that certain Christians, especially, again, I don't want to always be picking on them because they're not always wrong by any means, but certain flaming evangelicals who were calling gays names and, you know, really calling for, you know, laws that I wouldn't support. I mean, this is a point I've tried to make and only been laughed at, which really disturbed me. Gay rights only exist because of Christianity.
Yeah.
And not because we were the ones who caused homophobia. No. I mean, dude, I was there in the 80s. I'm that old. The gay rights movement got where it did by appealing to Christians on Christian values.
Yeah.
And I know some of these assholes are going to go scaring out and picking something out of Leviticus out of context. And especially they like quoting St. Paul out of context. They quote him exactly backwards, by the way. Because that part where Paul talks about how, gays deserve to be killed, so they're disgusting.
He's quoting someone else.
All you have to do is read the very next verse, and you realize he's a sarcastic bastard because he says, "But you're all just as bad as that, and you all deserve it. So leave them alone." That's a Christian values. If you look at atheist cultures, see, they love talking about the Muslim cultures, which can be very hard on the gays. Atheist cultures, and they do exist, have a worse record.
Yeah.
And if you look at the science on it, homophobia is natural, and it's usually people's religious convictions that get them to temper that aversion that a lot of them have. That's where the Bible even says that. And if you go back and look at the history, Christians were always consistently saying the same thing on gay rights. Well, don't push that in my face, that gay thing in my face, but what you do is your business.
Yeah.
Don't put him in jail, and don't beat him up, because those are the Christian answers. At the height, the Catholic Church, for example, now gets blamed for the AIDS crisis. The Catholic Church ran all the AIDS hospices for thousands upon thousands of gay men when the AIDS crisis was at its height.
Yeah.
At no cost, because nobody else would take care of them. Yet now that's forgotten, and we're the bad guys because we still think gay sex, that's probably not good for you. That's enough.
Do a video on that, because
I'm going to.
We don't hear that enough.
As someone who's been a gay rights proponent, when gay rights meant stop beating them up and stop treating them like shit, now I feel betrayed. I've had multiple black people and trans people who I was always allies of turn on me because I now dare to be Christian and won't apologize to them, because I won't apologize to them.
Yeah.
And a ton of atheists, gay or not, regularly approach me now as if I owe them an apology.
Yeah.
And explanations. I had multiple experiences literally where people didn't know who I was. This was before I got at all obnoxious, right? I was just being nice and gracious, and I said, hey, I had multiple conversations where I say, yeah, well, I am a Christian. Complete strangers. Well, I just want you to know I completely disagree with you. And I'm like, you don't even know me, motherfucker. What are you talking about? That's happened to me a few times. I'd be like, I'm Catholic. And I've even had people literally verbally attack me out of nowhere just because I said I was Catholic.
Yeah.
At some point, the atheist community, which is where most of this comes from now, it's not mostly other Christians in the United States acting like this. Most Protestants don't act this way anymore. They can be a little condescending because they don't bother to learn about what Catholics really think or what Orthodox Christians really think. They just think they've got their Bible and their opinion that's good enough. They got to get over that. But the atheists take advantage of that. And yeah, now I lost my place. Sorry.
But people attacking you and gay rights.
They actually feel licensed to do that because atheist.
Yeah.
I've seen it over and over and over again. They feel licensed to attack people because atheist. And they feel licensed to expound upon science because atheist.
Yes. Yes. This is what I was. It kind of goes back to an earlier point where I wanted to make a point. But I see. I mean, I'm friends with I'm Facebook friends with some gay people, and I see, and they say, oh yeah, we'll say we believe in stuff. First off, I believe in science means jack shit. I mean that's kind of nonsense.
I, on the other hand, don't believe in science. I hold my breath and say everything happens by magic because my sky fairy orders it.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, right. So they think it's like this courageous, meaningful position. But yeah. What I see is a lot of gay people are kind of like pushing back. So, I'll use this. This is convenient. I'll just take this narrative and use this. They know jack shit about science, but so are science, whatever. So I believe in science. Blah blah blah. It's like no, fucking. You can't name Newton's 3 laws of motions. You know jack shit about science. Shut the fuck up. But this kind of goes back to what you were saying, where the media, the new atheism in its kind of incipient stages was a media creation.
It was.
Serving a certain goal, and they, like I said, if you saw my video about Brexit, Trexit, the exit, basically the point I made there is that these are people who have gone to elite schools. These are people who have a well-rounded cultural education.
Yeah.
But when it comes to advancing the atheist narrative, they just throw out the slop. They say, "Oh, well, Richard Dawkins, this is likely to get people on board the atheism train. So here, plebes, feast on this." They know it's horseshit. They know it can't bear up to any sort of philosophical or historical scrutiny. But hey, it's good enough for these people. It will convince them that atheism is correct, so it serves our purposes.
And I think what else has happened, I could go off on a long time about Richard Dawkins, who is not a scientist. He is a pseudoscientist with a PhD. on multiple levels. He is one of the most spectacularly failed scientists who has ever lived. And that's one of the things I keep noticing in science. When you find the atheist experts in science, with very rare exception, most of them are empty suits. Richard Dawkins is clearly an empty suit.
Yeah.
Sam Harris is an empty suit. Daniel Dennett is not, but he's clearly deranged. And there's quite a few others too. Lawrence Krauss, not that impressive. Yeah. Jerry Coyne, definitely not impressive. These people and their fellow scientists can see it, and their fellow scientists who call them on it get ignored by the media, yet Sam Harris keeps getting called. And Penn Jillette keeps getting called. And so this is part of the media environment. Literally, atheists who are like maybe 2 or 3% of the population and shrinking in the UK and Canada, as well as the United States, they still think they're the cultural elite. And then they wonder why Christians aren't running to embrace them.
Well, that's the thing. Even when you get like a genuinely smart guy like Steven Pinker and you read what he has to say about religion, it's still
he's an idiot.
It's still the same insipid, evidence-free horseshit. It's, oh, religion is just believing what you're told. Science is always opening to admit it's wrong. It's just the same insipid talking points. There's absolutely no substance to his ideas on religion. Is, oh, well, it's Steven Pinker, therefore he has a substantive view on religion, yeah.
You will notice in the entire mainstream media environment over the last 10, 15 years, especially the last 10 years, more and more atheists are being promoted. Stephen Colbert, who, by the way, I don't believe is a real Catholic at all, but, you know, he just had an interview with, quote, his favorite atheist, and they've trotted out another so-called friendly atheist to explain to everybody, they do this with their media darlings. We got a new atheist that everybody likes. They'll say, and they'll call themselves the friendly atheist, the nice atheist, the kindly atheist, the atheist who's just like you.
Herman Metla or whoever his idea is. I have no idea.
And a lot of them will be like, well, why would I hate anybody for their religion? I don't hate your religion. I just don't believe in God. But BuzzFeed even recently had an ad promoting atheism and saying nice, you know, having atheists looking in a camera and say, just because I'm atheist doesn't mean I have no morals. I got to do a response video to that one too, because they always avoid the hard questions.
Wait, okay. The thing is that was part of a BuzzFeed series called "I'm a blank, but I'm not ... And so they did that with atheists. They also did it with Christians, and it pissed off a whole lot of Christians. You can find a lot of response videos from Christian YouTube channels. But yeah, they got like the absolute worst Christians, and then they got the atheists, and it's basically like these things are filmed in Los Angeles, so it's always the people with the most wishy-washy views, and so it's like, okay, I'm a Christian, but I'm not like judgmental or whatever, blah blah blah. So yeah, they did it with atheists, but they also did it with several other things too.
It's always fun to make the atheist look at least as innocuous as possible, and to never ask the atheist a hard question.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Are you going to respect my religious values in the political arena? Yes or no? They don't want to answer that one. You know, are you going to try and convince my child that science has replaced religion? Will you ever do that, sir? Because at this point, the way atheists do talk, seriously, at this point, I mean this literally, I hope I get quoted far and wide. If I found out one of my children's teachers was an open atheist, I would try to get my child removed from that classroom, no matter what the subject was. And because if that was a problem, I'd want to get him out of the whole school.
Because they're incapable of separating what is their personal opinion with what is objective fact.
That's right. They'll even say religion now. Religion in their cult lexicon means irrational.
Yeah, yeah.
And if my child ever, literally, I would put, and I'll repeat what I've said elsewhere. Based on atheist behavior, I would never vote for an atheist. Yeah. I was really pleased when I heard that, even though I wasn't anti-Bernie, when I heard the Clinton campaign was thinking about going after Bernie for being an atheist, everybody condemned that. Not me. Bernie's an atheist. Good reason not to vote for him. I mean it.
I miss that. I miss that. My impression was that Bernie was just like a lot of Jews, just kind of like a lot of lefty Jews, just kind of a secular Jew.
One day I'd love to do one day I'd like to do a whole hangout on Jews, because I know me some secular Jews, and which means atheist these days. Have you noticed secular has turned into atheist?
Well, that was one of your little guidelines for this discussion is the changing meaning of the word secular.
Yes, secular used to mean people, most of whom are religious. By which I mean historically most people were religious, and currently today in 2016 most people are religious, at least in some sense. Yeah. Even if they don't go to church or whatever. Secular used to mean all these peoples like Mormons and Catholics and Calvinists and whatever. We're going to kind of get together. We're going to think, how can we shape a discussion where we're not going to go to the areas where we disagree? Yeah. We're just going to talk about where we can agree. And atheists have run with that and run with that with the discussion, well, then if it's religious, it doesn't belong in the discourse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, especially going to these displays where you know, the FRFF or atheist, the American Atheist or something. Their new thing is lawsuits. And so how are they using like the First Amendment, like the Establishment Clause, which was designed to protect religious expression, and using that as some sort of a cudgel to eliminate religious expression from the entire sphere? They're using it for the exact opposite of its intended purpose, which was to ensure freedom of religious expression. And then now they're using it for the exact opposite purpose. And it's like, yes, I agree entirely. The United States government should not show preference towards any religious viewpoint, but now it's only showing preference to the atheistic viewpoint.
Yes.
No, that's not what it was designed to do.
No, that's right. And atheists need to be called on that because they keep pretending it's not so. But if you actually look and you actually listen to them talk, I mean, they'll lie to your face about it. And when I say atheists always lie, they do. Just like in SJW has always lied, they do. They lie constantly because they'll change from one sentence to another. They will. They'll claim there's no agenda here, and then all you have to do is look. Of course, they have an agenda. Yeah, it's very easily described what the agenda is. It's very easy to see what the beliefs are. And the only thing that makes me feel bad about this, about identifying it, about talking about it openly, about confronting it openly, about refusing to back down no matter what they say about us, because this is what we have to do, right? Like every time they insult you, you just have to stand and refuse to move. Refuse ever to apologize, refuse to admit to any error, because atheists, because just like social justice warriors, any admission of failure or being wrongness will be used against you forever as proof that you're a bad person.
But yeah.
Well, I've seen it in action. I've gotten it so many times from people associated with free thought blogs, for example. The free thought blog crowd before they were called free thought blogs were one of the people who drove me out of atheism. But now I know people are going to hear that and they're going to say, well, yeah, but you didn't know the real atheists. Yeah. No. Yeah, I did. They were fucking atheists acting like typical fucking atheists do. I'm still waiting to see them try and shut this channel down, just like they've done to so many other Christians. They have to be confronted this way. And I feel bad about it, though, because I know there's the confused, maybe kind of nerdy and insecure kid who just can't get the God idea in his head, because I was that kid. And it's real common in autistics, and a lot of autistics are very gentle people, and they can't see past the material. I know, because I used to be that way. They're literally like, what are you talking about outside time and space? I don't even know what that means. I literally didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what you meant for a while. Then when it hit me, I'm like, oh, okay.
Nowadays, that's an argument. That's an argument. Just say, I can't understand how something is beyond time and space, and that's your argument. You can't understand.
In fact, it's extraordinarily noticeable how often atheists, and Penn Jillette started this little trick. He did it all over his show bullshit. He still does it all the time. Mar does this. Every other atheist asshole does this. When they got a point they can't address, or when they're caught, they're like, I don't know, I'm just a comedian. I don't know, I was just making a point. I don't know, I find that confusing. This is all, they become, the caveman atheist. I don't understand. Well, and I don't understand that Harry Potter magic. It's like, so basically you're bragging about being stupid and ignorant.
Exactly.
And again, I know some of them are going to hear this and they're going to burst into tears or something, but really, atheists regularly brag that they're stupid and ignorant.
Well, there's a whole genre of atheist argument. I call it a seems to me argument, where they say, well, it seems to me that if God created the world, such and such would be so. Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it seems to you, unless you can actually frame that as an argument. Or they say, well, it seems to me that if Jesus existed, we would have some extant Roman accounts of his existence. It's like, well, it seems to you because you read a Facebook meme graphic that says that. You know, let's trust the actual historians here, and not trust what some person who saw a Facebook meme graphic thinks. You know.
I know that we have talked about the Christian thing a lot, but I want to keep getting out there. Literally, I come to the defense of Buddhists. We come to the defense of Buddhists. By the way, there's a widespread myth that Buddhism is an atheist religion. That's a lie promulgated by the Chinese government. If you really study, you will find out. No. Most historic, even today, most Buddhists are not atheists. So when you go out into websites that are saying Buddhism is an ancient atheist religion, they're lying. All of them are. Buddhism is not an atheist faith. There's a sort of denial of. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm far from an expert, but it's been my impression from what I've read that there is a within Buddhism there is a monotheistic first cause, but kind of like Gnosticism, our knowledge and our experience of this first cause can be clouded.
I believe you will find that is state-sanctioned Buddhism, and that if you start reading about Siddhartha and Gautama and quite a few others, they talk constantly about the gods in the plural. They talk constantly about spirit forces in the plural. They're not being metaphorical and saying, yes, I really mean these spiritual forces are truly just a psychological manifestation of my neurochemistry. No, they believe in spirit forces.
Yeah.
They believe in little g gods, and most of them, at least by survey, report believing in the ultimate, what's in the Western tradition is called God, the first cause, the first everything. And I've now seen recent attempts to portray Taoism as atheist. Again, that's a lie.
Yeah.
In fact, Taoism is so religious that a lot of Christians absolutely love Taoism.
Yeah, there are a lot of points of agreement. You know,
a ton of them. And C.S. Lewis loved the Tao, and Thomas Merton loved the Tao. And from my perspective, and I really mean this, I don't care. Well, I mean, I do care. Okay, fine. I want everybody to be Christian. Fine. We're not evangelicals. We don't say accept Jesus and you'll be saved. I'm sorry. That's on the evangelicals. We don't believe that. Just accept Jesus and you're saved. These people are so incurious about what most Christians believe, it's ridiculous. Because most Christians don't believe that believe or burn shit. We don't. Most Christians do not. Only hardcore fundamentalist evangelicals and some hard-ass others, but most don't. It's the incuriosity of the average atheist mind that really gets to me.
Yeah.
They're just totally incurious, and they assume their knowledge of everything because they truly believe somehow atheists came and, like Prometheus, brought us fire. It's the fire of science and their neat idea that we should do things with evidence.
It's like, that's a revolutionary idea. Yeah, thanks a lot.
No one ever thought of that. You know, like 500 years ago, when the Pope issued an order, every Catholic just automatically obeyed it. Like, how dumb do these people have to be?
This is a point I made with missing the mark. You will find books, you'll find YouTube videos. Atheists have made 20-minute YouTube videos explaining why you should not believe things without evidence. It's well, okay, you're arguing against a non-existent position, you know?
Yes, they argue against not even the dumbest Christians I've met are rarely so simple-minded.
Yeah. The atheists' own first principles are never subject to examination. They'll never critically examine, okay, I believe this and this to be true. Are they true? Do I have a reason for believing this? When I say there is no evidence for God, is there any conceivable way to back up that claim that there is no evidence for God except through just as an argument from ignorance?
Just continually repeating it, and it will be so. Proof by repeated assertion, especially about religion. And I mean about religion, about science, and history. By the way, that will prove things by repeated assertion. It's ludicrous.
That is my belief, is that is the root of atheist incuriosity and of basically new atheist stupidity, is this claim there is no evidence for God. That's going to be a basis for a video on my part. But I think it all goes back to that. I think all new atheist stupidity kind of when you distill it, it goes back to that little talking point that is in no way it's undefended and indefensible. I mean,
No, it is. In fact, we said we'd only go an hour, so we're going to have to wrap it up soon. But I hope we can do this again. I think I want to do like a weekly, like Sundays on Escaping Atheism, where we talk to people. And I have no intention of inviting any atheists to the discussions, unless I have a really good reason, because I genuinely don't believe anyone in the atheist community has anything useful to add to what we're doing, unless they show up with a list of apologies about 50 checkpoint list items and start doing something to call their own into account. And I don't mean just because you disagree with them politically. Call yourselves into account. Look into a fucking mirror one of your times. God, I see 40-year-old atheists now that remind me of 15-year-olds from high school.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God. And you're huh?
There are two types of atheists. There are adolescents proper, and then there are these superannuated adolescents. But yes.
Yeah.
That's what Richard Dawkins is. He's just basically a snotty little 16-year-old boy who's pissed off that his parents made him go to church.
Oh, and yeah.
Now he's advancing. Oh well, if God created the world, who made God? That's his argument. He's the most adolescent form of atheism.
Right up there. That's which have you even tried to get through his absurd ultimate 747 argument? Oh my God! How dumb do you need to be? How untrained do you have to be to understand what a dumb argument the 747 argument is? Oh my God! I'm going to put this in the water now. I've said it before. I'll say it again. No, truly, selfish gene is not science and is in fact pseudoscience. There's nothing to selfish gene anymore. Nobody who studies genetics even takes it seriously. It's not science. It's busted. It was provocative 40 years ago. It's literally not even wrong now. And no, selfish gene does not help popular audiences understand evolution. In fact, it makes them understand it less well. I got plenty of arguments there. And based on selfish gene, he crafted something called mimetic theory. Mimetic theory is completely busted and has no scientific basis whatsoever. Never did. No scientist takes it seriously anymore. That's two pseudosciences he's generated, and then he gives us the God delusion. And the notion that believing in God is a delusion is also testable.
Yeah.
And psychologically and otherwise, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And so there you go. Pseudoscientist cult leader, all he is. And Sam Harris is even less qualified as a scientist. Yeah. And yet they hold them up as scientists. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's done nothing with his career. But you realize that getting a PhD in astronomy or chemistry like Thunderfoot's got, I think he's got a chemistry degree, right? That basically qualifies you to be a high school science teacher.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is all Thunderfoot amounts to. It's clear that he couldn't do that much in the regular sciences, so he decided to get into making videos. And he makes very good ones, by the way. But really, he's a glorified science teacher.
I remember one of those videos, he talked about how expensive the equipment he uses is, and then he immediately jumped to the assertion that God doesn't exist. It's like, oh, well, this is 2016, I'm using this very expensive equipment. It's ridiculous that people still believe in God. It's like, I'm sorry, is there an argument? Is there some way to move from premise to conclusion there?
I don't like necessarily calling people out. Because, as far as atheists goes, give me 50 Thunderfoots over a Steve Shive. But still, do I want 50 Thunderfoots? Yeah. Do I need 50 Thunderfoots? Yeah. I at some point, these guys got to realize all of them, left, right, or center, they act like their shit don't stink.
This is another thing about atheist YouTube channels. By the way, we're going over.
Yeah, I know, and we need to be closing up soon. But go ahead, make your point.
Okay, this is my point. Is that you could so easily call them out on their bullshit. So go to Thunderfoot. Say okay, you made this beautiful video explaining why solar freaking roadways is bullshit.
Which he's right about, clearly.
Yes. And then you say Christianity is bullshit. So can you lay out an argument? Say, oh no, you're shifting the burden of proof. Go to AIU. You make these beautiful videos explaining with facts and figures why Black Lives Matter is bullshit. And then there's other videos say Christianity is bullshit. Can you trot out facts and figures? They say,
dude,
you're shifting the burden of proof. In every case.
I don't want to even push him on that. Talk to me about Christianity. I mean, I'll challenge him on that. But I'll challenge him on basic theism. Yeah. Really, I actually prefer that. I literally mean it when I say the ancient philosophers, even the more, you know,
God of
locking on that, who were deists, who were Unitarians of some sort, but who all said religion's important, has to be respected, and don't put up with people who are nasty about religion, aka atheists. Don't put up with them because they're horrible. I'm sorry, that was consensus wisdom of everybody until 30, 40, 50 years ago. And everything flipped, but nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed in science that would change that attitude. Atheism really has some real logical challenges. It's why I keep saying, yeah, well, come on, go ahead, debunk. I would like him to actually, if he doesn't debunk something, let's see him back up the idea that children are born atheist. Because the science is not on his side on that, by the way. Or that religion is something imposed on people. Back that up. You can't. You know who would also love to send these questions to? God Sod, who runs around as an atheist, advocating for what, by which he means atheist governance, in which people like him get to decide what is a religious value and what isn't.
Yes.
Which is the ultimate thing that makes me not trust any atheist anywhere currently. Anywhere, any atheist, at least who's saying I'm an atheist and speaking as an atheist.
Because they're incapable.
I got friends who are atheists who are not like this. I can't even name them because they'll get called into the war. But no, the worst thing about the atheists is they get to decide what's a religious argument and what's not.
Yes, it kind of goes back to the I might be opening a whole can of worms here, but particularly on an issue like abortion, it's like atheists will just declare, oh, that's a religious conviction. It's like, really? I mean, can you find that in the Bible? It's like, oh no,
the pro-life atheists have nothing to say either.
Yeah, they're Jews, they're Hindus, they're Muslims who are all opposed to abortion, but you get to decide that this is a religious belief. It kind of reminds me of like Facebook with fake news, where they could just kind of use that as a pretext for dismissing things they don't.
That's right. And they now
that's fake news. Okay, let's dismiss that. Abortion. Well, it's like most of abortion opponents are Christian. Most of everybody is Christian, but no, they'll use that as a pretext.
Well, most of people who have moral convictions, because atheists do have no morals, by the way. I need to do a video on that.
What I was saying is that most atheists lack the critical faculties to be able to discern the little. I'm sorry. They
lack any level of discernment at all.
To tease out the premises that they're smuggling in.
Yeah.
They can't see the assumptions that they're smuggling in, and they just take them as objective fact.
That's right. So they get to declare that's religious and therefore out of bounds. This is also why I will say in this, and let me close with this. Something that the distributist has said, and actually Paul Elam has said, and quite a few others, politics is downstream of culture. I have no interest in arguing from a political point of view anymore, except that culturally, I think all religious people, whether you're Christian or even if you're just one of the countless people who are like, I'm not really religious, but I do believe in God. And they need to know it's rational to believe in God, and it's okay to believe in God, and that atheist bullies are a much smaller minority than they think. They exert control of language to the point where if you talk about God, somebody feels licensed to object and shush you. It's not true. It's not true. The vast majority of people are very open to talking about things, and not and talking about the spiritual. In fact, I'll close here, but for anybody who's bothered listening, when we're talking about the spiritual, yes, okay, he and I are both Christians, but we're not the type that scream believe or burn. And I have had some of the most fascinating conversations with Hindus. I've had fascinating conversations with pagans. I've had fascinating conversations with theistic existentialists. I didn't think there could be such a thing, but they're interesting conversations.
What I've noticed, a lot of the pagans on YouTube are ferociously smart.
Some of them are. I think some of them have a more. Yes, there's disagreements. Some of the pagans I've seen have a more hostile or guarded attitude toward Christians than they need to. I think it's because the Bible thumpers drive them off. But I've had some great conversations with some pagans, and I'm open to do it because on Escaping Atheism, we definitely support paganism, serious-minded ones who have some values and real belief in God. I got way more in common with them. I really do. And it's time people just speak up, because really The notion that that default atheism means default rational, it's got to end. It's got to end. I'm going to try and do a weekly hangout. We're going to see what we see. But in any case, let's get this closed. I wanted to be less than an hour. Let's close it up. Is there anything else you want to talk about or mention before we close?
No, just have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Absolutely. And be sure to subscribe to Deflating Atheism. He's like my alter ego, my better looking alter ego or something. He's just funny as I love him. And also please check out Escaping Atheism, like, subscribe, check us out on Patreon. We are growing, and thanks for being there. I guess we'll see you all soon. Have a good one.